Sup guys, it's Cincy. Welcome to the channel. Welcome to my video. This is going to be my first vocal appearance. Let's go. Anyway, this vid's going to be about my settings. It's going to sort of go into a deep dive where, I explain what my settings are and sort of why I have them the way they are. And extra stuff like what controller I use. Do I use Control Freaks? Do I use Precision Rings? And yeah, all that stuff. So enough rambling, and let's get on with it. Alright, so these are my settings. I personally like to run 430 by 430. I know a lot of other controller players are running that 400 to 500 range because that's sort of like the golden sweet spot. You're not too fast, you're not too slow. And yeah, zoom, sense, multiplier. This really comes down to personal preference, but you sort of want to keep it relative to your hip fire sensitivity. So I run 45, and then for scope sense, I run 55. I personally run focal length sensitivity scaling off. I know other pro players such as Grad love to run this as well. It just makes the game feel a little bit more responsive, although if you're not used to it, I'd say keep it off. But the games I used to play don't have a built-in sensitivity scaling method, so I'm just used to this, so I have it off. Now, I keep all the look boosts and the ramp up times and all that. I have all this on 0 because I feel it's a little bit unnecessary. It's just extra steps in your sensitivity that just aren't really needed, and it's better to just keep it simple and keep it to a raw base input without having extra stuff affecting it, such as like a boost ramp up time and look boost, because that just adds input delay that just isn't needed. Now, if you didn't know, running 0-0 dead zones on both your aiming inner and movement inner dead zone does increased aim assist. I don't know why. Embark is a little goofy in that regard, but yeah. I run 0-0, and I do have a TMR controller, so I have absolutely zero drift. And I'd recommend you getting one with TMR sticks. They're an absolute heaven sent. And it's pretty much just uses magnet and laser technology to reduce, physical wear and tear of your traditional analog sensors. And yeah, there's a lot less input delay and they're a lot more accurate. So yeah, would highly recommend finding a controller that has TMR sticks. If not, and you just have a regular controller like an Xbox Elite Series 2 or a DualSense Edge, just turn down your dead zones to be as low as possible without getting drift. Now, I like to run sinusoidal, aka reverse S-curve. In other games it's either or, called either sinusoidal or reverse S, but in this game it's called sinusoidal. This is not really the controller meta. The controller meta right now is 100% linear, because linear gives a lot more aim assist. Again, Embark's a bit goofy, they don't really know how to balance controller. Linear has far more aim assist than the other response curves, but it's also a lot more popular because you can hit sort of more close spread beams and a lot more accurate beams from a lot of different distances, so that's why people run linear. But I don't run linear, I run sinusoidal. It's just what I like, and all the games I used to play beforehand had reverse S-curve, and that's what I ran, and yeah, so I just use sinusoidal because I'm more comfortable with it. Give it a try if you'd like. Now, I'm a equipment wheel player, just like Lasagna. The TGM25 champion, medium, for Nightmare. But yeah, and I think Impu uses equipment wheel as well. If you do use directional and you're used to directional equipping, I'd say stick with that. But if not, give equipment wheel a try. I personally think it's a little bit faster for equipping things, but it also can be a little bit more inconsistent if your inputs don't register as well, so you may accidentally pull out something you don't want to pull out. But yeah, give it a try. Now my reload and pickup behavior, I have prioritized pickup on because I feel it's a little bit more valuable than prioritize reload. You know, for example, if you're in a situation where you're running away from someone when you're really, really low and you just need to pick up a goo barrel to save your life, that's why you have prioritized pickup. Because if you've had prioritized reload on, you would have reloaded your weapon instead of picking up the barrel, causing you to, die. So, although the only problem with prioritized pickup is that when you're trying to reload, you're always going to be accidentally picking up something, and that's just unavoidable until Embark sort of changes the binds in this game and makes things adjustable. You know, for example, like double tap to reload, or double tap to pick up, or hold to reload, or hold to pick up, and you can adjust sort of the times for the hold to reload. I think that would be quite nice if Embark would do that. Now, for my binds, this is my binds, as you can see here. I run auto sprint, so my sprint bind is set to ping. And because my controller has 4 rear paddles, I'm allowed to be a little bit more flexible with what my binds are. So my melee is my right trigger. And yeah. And I have LB binded for the wheel activation. And yeah, that's pretty much my binds. Now, I mentioned this before, where you probably should get a controller with TMR sticks. So it's basically frictionless magnet technology that uses laser reading, and it's, a faster reaction than your typical analog controller. So if you didn't know, most commercially available controllers from, PlayStation and Xbox, they use the old analog system, so it's a point-to-point physical contact system, and that's what your drift is. So that's actually what causes stick drift, is just the contact points of the sensor just start wearing down over time, while they get covered with, dust and debris and all that, so that causes drift. Now with TMR sticks, this doesn't happen, because again, it's frictionless, so there's no contact. It's suspended in, magnets, and it uses laser technology for your readings. So that's how it captures your sensitivity, your inputs and adjustments. So they're a lot quicker, a lot smoother, and it responds a lot faster with less input delay, and it's a lot more accurate. So yeah. If you're not like a devout controller player and you're like absolutely certain you want to like play controller, don't get a really expensive, Battle Beaver like I did, because these things are like very expensive. They're like $600 to $800, depending on how much you spec them out. And this is an AUD, by the way. I'm not sure how much that is in USD. I'd probably say about like $600 USD, but yeah, if don't do this unless you're like absolutely certain you're going to be a controller player. If you're just giving it a try, a good controller is probably the Elite Series 2 or the DualSense Edge. Those are great, like reliable entry level, like competitive minimum options for controller, and you can't really go wrong with them. It's just you only get this higher tier stuff if you're like absolutely certain you want to be a controller player. Now, I do use Control Freaks. I have a high-rise concave on my right stick for aiming, and I have a mid-rise concave on my left stick for movement, for just better grip and overall. They are the Galaxy pattern. I know some people do like the Inferno pattern, but with my experiences in the past with the Infernos, they don't really wear quite evenly, and they wear out quite quickly, and the pattern just loses its effectiveness. So that's why I use the Galaxies. There's a lot more grip there. I also use precision rings, Control Freak precision rings. So I use the purple precision rings only on my right stick, and it's the like medium density purple precision ring. So I found that it's a great in-between between the blacks, which are really super stiff and like super hard, and the greens, which are like super soft and like barely noticeable. So if you're just starting out with precision rings, I would recommend buying the multi-packs. I'm pretty sure it's like the only thing like in stock ever. is the Control Freak Precision Ring multi-packs. So they've got 2 of each color, which is the greens, the purples, and the blacks. So I'd recommend if you're new to if you're new to precision rings, try the greens first, because they're the ones that like do the least and feel the least weird, because they do take some time to adjust to, but they do work wonders, because they don't call them precision rings for nothing. It makes your finer movements and finer adjustments a lot easier. And I find personally it helps with recoil control as well. So it'll make your recoil even better, because it just makes the finer movements. So like if you're controlling recoil while like tracking someone or having to aim, it just makes that even easier. So they're 100% a life changer. And yeah, same with the Control Freak, stick extenders. They're an absolute lifesaver too, because it increases the surface area of your aim space. So think of it like a mouse and key equivalent, like buying a bigger mouse pad. Like the stock controller is like a tiny little square mouse pad, but when you get the Control Freak, you get a huge mouse pad, essentially. Plus they add more grip and help with finer precision as well. So if you're getting like a bit sweaty and that, you're not going to be slipping off the sticks. So yeah. I also run a faster speed USB cable. Most of the stock, PlayStation, Xbox cables are a black USB. I run a blue USB cord, because all my USB ports on my PC are blue speed anyway. I don't know the exact speeds of them right now. I just know that the blue USBs are faster in speed compared to the black USBs.